What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. As always, we have quite a couple stories to go through, and if there's only a couple that you're interested in, feel free to either use the timestamps down in the description or just kind of scroll through the time bar on the video and the chapters will be labeled there, and you can just skip ahead to whatever stories you're actually interested in hearing. But hey, if you're here for the long haul and are gonna stick through the entire show, then I really appreciate you. First things first, let's go ahead and go over all the major game releases from the last week according to Metacritic. So, on August 2nd, we have World of Goo 2. Man, I've been waiting a long time for that one. Those that were around for the WiiWare days will know about that. August 1st, Mars 2120. This is a game that is leaving early access, as well as Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Thalassa, Edge of the Abyss. Thank goodness you're here. And then on July 30th, we had The Garden Path. So, have you guys gotten to pick up or play any of these games? Next up, two games are free on Epic Games, those being Lumberjack and Ramen Food Fighter Arena. These will be free until August 8th at 11 a.m. EST, so you might as well redeem them because there's no better price than free. Next up, we got the August PS Plus Essential Games for you guys, those being Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, and Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. These will be releasing on August 6th. Next up, Mafia Definitive Edition is coming to Xbox Game Pass. This is coming from Xbox Game Pass on X, quote, a remade classic is on its way. Mafia Definitive Edition is coming August 13th. If you haven't played either the original Mafia or the Definitive Edition yet, I would highly recommend playing this game. It is an excellent remake of the classic game back from the Xbox and PS2 generation. All things considered, it's a relatively linear game. It can kind of give you the illusion of an open world at first, but you'll quickly find out the story is rather linear. But it's just a very good, classic Mafia story. So if you're into stuff like The Godfather, for example, then I would highly recommend giving this game and its two sequels a shot. Next up, the Visions of Mana demo is available now. This is coming from Wario64 on X, where they mention, quote, play the demo and receive 3 weapons in the full game. Gladius, a small sword for Val, Falx, a great sword for Val, and Hordlance, a lance for Val. These weapons can be claimed by starting a new game and proceeding as far as Chapter 1. This bonus item can also be acquired by progressing through the game, and you're able to play this demo on PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. So if you've never played a Mana game before, don't worry, you'll be able to dive in here with Visions of Mana. While there is some, strings connecting these games from time to time, they're like the Final Fantasy games were, for the most part, you may see some similarities or things that take place, kind of within the universes of the games appear in other games, but for the most part, they're going to be standalone experiences that you can enjoy without playing the other games. Though I would recommend playing the other games if you get the time, otherwise Visions of Mana is seeming to be a great place to jump in. Next up, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chernobyl has been delayed again. So they actually put up a trailer kind of just like poking fun at the fact that yes, they are delaying the game again, and it's cool that they're kind of poking some fun at themselves with this one. If you know anything about the development of this game, we're not going to go too far into it, but there has been some unfortunate circumstances affecting the development of this game behind the scenes. But nonetheless, we'll go ahead and read their message here. Quote, to all our players, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chernobyl will now be launching on November 20th, 2024, moving from the previously planned date of September 5th of this year. We know you might be tired of waiting, and we truly appreciate your patience. These 2 additional months will give us the chance to fix more unexpected anomalies, or simply bugs as you call them. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 is shaping up to be everything we envisioned. With the launch nearly here, we are incredibly excited to share more with you to give you a taste of what's coming. We're thrilled to announce the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 developer deep dive video, which will be released on Xbox media channels on August 12th. This detailed update will include exclusive interviews, lots of new footage, and a full video walkthrough of one of the game quests. We can't wait for you to see it and get a comprehensive understanding of how the game looks and plays. We're always grateful for your ongoing support and understanding. It means the world to us. We're just as eager as you are to finally release the game and for you to experience it for yourself. With love and gratitude, GSC Game World. So, again, a lot of unfortunate circumstances behind the scenes, so I can fully understand why they need to delay the game again and why it's taken so long for it to come out. It's just unfortunate that those circumstances were just that the things that are happening at all. Regardless, I'm really excited for this game to release, and I already know it's going to be great. Next up, a Concord Dualsense controller was announced. This is coming from Concord on X, quote, a vibrant controller for a vibrant universe. The Dualsense wireless controller Concord Limited Edition will be available for players in the US. Pre-order now. So this is going for $84.99, and I'll go ahead and put a picture up on screen just so you guys can get a look at it. It's cool design with like the blacks and the reds and stuff like that, but $84.99 $69.99. Ooh, man, I could either buy a brand new game and a couple packs of Skittles for that, or, you know, I could buy like 2 used games, or heck, maybe even like 4 used games if I'm getting some cheaper ones like Gollum and Forspoken or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. Not much of a limited edition controller guy. I'm pretty vanilla in that stance, but, you know, regardless, it's a cool controller, and if you're into collecting, you know, limited edition controllers or just controllers in general, then I figured I'd put this one on your guys' radar. And regardless, I mean, hey, it does look pretty cool. I'll give him that. Next up, an Astro Dualsense controller was announced. It's coming from the PlayStation blog. Quote, "Today it is an immense pleasure to announce that you will be able to charge into Astro's new supersized adventure along with the cool new Dualsense wireless controller, Astro Limited Edition. The controller's design features Astro's signature blue accents on the handles and buttons carved in sci-fi lines, as well as a trademark playful pair of eyes on the touchpad. It is a true work of art, and we could not be happier with the end result at Team Asobi, starting Friday, August 9th at 7 a.m. PT in the US and 10 a.m. local time in the UK, France, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Italy, Spain, Austria, and Portugal. Players will be able to pre-order the Dualsense wireless controller, Astrobot Limited Edition, through direct.playstation.com, as well as from select retailers. Pre-orders will also be available through select retailers and other global markets on the same day. The Dualsense wireless controller Astrobot Limited Edition will be available in limited quantities for $79.99 USD and will launch on September 6th, day and date with the launch of Astrobot. So this is once again another limited edition controller similar to the Concord one. So if you want to get your hands on it, the earlier the better. I must say, I am really excited for Astrobot, and this controller does look adorable, so there's a part of me that's tempted just to buy it just so I can put it in like a nice glass shelf somewhere, get a nice stand for it just to always have it on display. I'm tempted. Next up, the Cipher Xbox controller was announced. It's coming from news.xbox.com. Quote, "Transparent tech is making a major comeback. We're introducing an exciting brand new controller to the Xbox lineup, the Xbox Wireless Controller Cipher Special Edition. Inspired by revealing the mysteries inside of the Xbox Wireless Controller, this transparent controller offers a look into the intricate technology that powers your gaming experiences. Cipher features a transparent blue design complemented by metallic features and silver interior parts that shine through from inside, exuding an aura of sophistication and futuristic appeal. The Xbox Wireless Controller Cipher Special Edition, that is a bit of a tongue twister, is available for pre-order today in select Xbox markets worldwide for $69.99, nice, USD ERP. Visit xbox.com or your local retailer, including Microsoft Store, for more information." End quote. So, as you can see on your screen, yeah, this is a really nice controller, and I even ended up going and leaving a comment on the video of their trailer just asking, like, hey, is it possible that we could see this in green? You know, the OGs will understand. Next up, a Super Mario World Lego set was announced. So this is available for pre-order right now for $129.99 USD, and it says that it will release on October 1st. I just kind of wanted to front load this announcement or this story with that just to kind of get the sticker shock out of the way before kind of delving more into what this is. So it's from, you know, Super Mario World, and it's the iconic shot of Mario riding Yoshi, and it looks exactly like the pixel art in the game. It even moves around and stuff like that. It comes with 1,215 pieces, so obviously for some of these higher set counts, that's why it costs as much as it does at, you know, 130 USD. But yeah, this one does look pretty cool, and as a huge LEGO fan myself, I will in fact be buying this one just because it looks so cool. And the fact that it moves, you can like make Yoshi like put his tongue out and everything like that, like you do in the game, like, come on, man, how could I pass up on that? I need to get this. Next up, the AYANEO Pocket DMG pre-orders have gone live. So we had talked about this a few months ago when it was first announced, and for anybody that is, you know, not in know as to what this is essentially a modern recreation of the original DMG Game Boy, just again modernized with different design features, button placements, etc. But anyway, the pre-orders have officially gone live. Right now, the early bird price is $340 USD, and if I'm understanding this correctly, they say that it's 24% off of what the final retail price will be when it officially launches. So if you were planning to buy this thing regardless, I'd highly recommend taking advantage of the early bird deal and getting your pre-order in to save a reasonable sum of money. The estimated shipping time is to be by October of this year, so you'll only be waiting about 2 months, but again, it's going to be saving you 24% if you do go ahead and pre-order it. Me personally, it's one of those things where it's like, I really want this device, but that is a bit of a steep price tag. I think I'm going to do it anyway, just because I do want to support AYANEO. I really like their products, but yeah, I must say that if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather go with the early bird thing, because for full price, when the deal's over, an additional 24%, yeah, that's gonna be a little pricey. Next up, the Xbox 360 store has officially shut down. So we had heard news that it was gonna be shutting down months ago at this point, but it finally happened. It shut down around 1 p.m. EST, give or take, on July 29th, 2024. So many games have been delisted, both with physical copies available, but sadly many of the digital-only games, whether those be just certain games that never had a physical release, or the Xbox Live Arcade games, which there was many of, and many of them never saw a physical release, have sadly vanished, and the only way that they are still around is via, certain archival internet sites and such like that, and it's just really sad when we get to this point where piracy literally is the only option to acquire some of these games, because there is no, it's not even one of those situations where, oh, Nintendo isn't actually selling the original Super Mario Bros. Anymore in cartridge form, therefore it's okay to pirate. No, this is a situation where these games are literally unobtainable in any other circumstance. Literally, there's not a single way that you could ever actually get your hands on this game again, because it was a digital-only product that has been delisted, which means if you want to get the games, like the Xbox Live Arcade games, your only option would be to pirate them via an archival site, have a modded device, and load them onto your Xbox as such. So, yeah, it's really unfortunate, and it's a sad end to an incredible era. I have a lot of nostalgia for the PS3 and 360 generation, as I'm sure many of you do as well, and so many memories of just browsing that store, learning about games, finding new games, buying games, and it's sad to see it go. Next up, it seems like the Mario and Sonic series is officially over. This coming from Eurogamer, quote, "The International Olympics Committee walked away from its partnership with Nintendo and Sega for the long-running Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series in order to explore deals with new partners, NFTs, and esports," Eurogamer understands. Speaking with Eurogamer, a veteran behind the series has now said the decision to end the popular Mario and Sonic franchise rested with the IOC, which chose not to renew its licensing deal with Nintendo and Sega and allowed it to lapse in 2020. Quote, "They wanted to look at other partners in NFTs and esports," Lee Crocker, who worked on almost every entry in the series, told Eurogamer. Quote, "Basically, the IOC wanted to bring it back to themselves internally and look at other partners so they would get more money," end quote. So, I mean, hey, if you would rather not work with two of the most popular IPs in not only video game history, but also just all of media when it comes to other things like books, toys, movies, etc., especially movies now for both Sonic and Mario, and you'd rather go after something that's literally worthless like NFTs nowadays, because literally nobody cares about NFTs and the worth for those have plummeted, I mean, that's your loss. It really is a shame, because I did enjoy these games. They ran from the Wii and DS days up until, well, with the Switch, with the last one releasing in 2020. So I really enjoy these games. I always got them whenever they came out, and it's just unfortunate to know that this series is either on an indefinite hiatus or just done in general. But yeah, group agreed, ladies and gentlemen, esports and NFTs. Who would have guessed? Next up, it seems like some Xbox Ones have been bricked lately, so this has been fixed at the time of me recording this. However, it's just something that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention and possibly get a conversation started on. So, this coming from Eurogamer, there's an update to the story at the top that reads, quote, "Microsoft's Jason Ronald confirms that the issue impacting Xbox One consoles unable to update has been resolved via a server-side fix. Quote, "For players who were having issues updating their Xbox One consoles still running an OS build from November 2018 or earlier, this has been resolved. Thanks to the team at Digital Foundry for notifying us about this issue. Game on." But then we go ahead and scroll down to the original story, which is just what I wanted to at least cover here, is, quote, "Original Xbox One consoles, the so-called VCR or set-top box model, were unable to function owing to the lack of a system software update for the hardware. Used consoles and factory reset also have the same issue. Based on our testing from Xbox One consoles brought out of storage, systems operating on older firmware revisions error out when connected to Xbox Live. We can assume that any affected console that can't update sorry, there must be a typo here in the article. Is any affected console that is then factory reset cannot function at all. Which is worth noting that is a very common occurrence, obviously, when you consider that quite a number of people either look to sell or purchase these older consoles over time for one reason or another. It's very common that they're going to be factory reset when you either buy them or sell them to somebody else. Which again, in turn, was resulting in bricked hardware here, so those consoles were just completely unusable. Like, literally, there's no, at that point, when the consoles were bricked, it wasn't just one of those things where you cancel the software update and you could still use the system offline. Like, it was literally just unusable. So, this is why I want to talk about this story, because this is a scary precedent for the future of console-level DRM. You think about how the PS5, you need to do the online check-in for the disk drive, for the Xbox One, well, as we just discussed, you needed, there's a whole DRM in there where you need to check in online and have the software updates going and stuff like that. And while this was a very niche situation, because it only applied to systems that had been stuck on firmware from 2017 or 2018 trying to update to current firmware, it's still just a scary precedent in general, because this is going to be a more common common occurrence going forward, I can imagine, where you know, a system has, say, been sitting in storage for a while, or it was factory reset, this, that, or the other, an error occurs, and next thing you know, you just have a bunch of Xboxes that are essentially paperweights, or in other words, an abundance of e-waste, to put it lightly. So, yeah, console-level DRM, it sucks, and consoles should just be usable regardless of internet. If I'm going to be honest, I think DRM just needs to go, period. I understand why developers and such use it, but there's always workarounds for these things anyway, so half the time it's just one of those things where implementing DRM does more harm than good for the consumers and ends up benefiting basically nobody. I mean, sometimes it benefits the developers and the companies and such, but even then, not by much and not for very long. Next up, it seems like PSVR 2 is finally taking off. So this coming from Push Square, quote, PSVR 2 sales are through the roof, having jumped some 2,350% since Sony announced some fairly drastic discounts, with further savings to be had at select retailers. In one 24-hour period since the announcement of the sale, more PSVR 2s were sold in the past 7 months combined, although the exact figures weren't shared, end quote. With reports that Sony may have already begun to slowly back away from the device, it remains to be seen if this spike in sales will have any long-term effects on the headset's current trajectory. So, just to go over that again, in one 24-hour period since the announcement of the sale, more PSVR 2s were sold than in the past 7 months combined. Yes, in one day. So, here's my stance on this. I hope the PSVR 2 doesn't end up like the Vita, where the hardware itself is incredibly powerful, capable, and has a ton of potential, but is quickly abandoned by Sony and left to the third parties and eventually the indies just to keep it alive. But with this recent surge in sales, though, my fingers are crossed that Sony will see the undeniable potential in this VR initiative, especially since they've been pushing it for almost an entire decade now. Clearly, they've seen the potential in it before, therefore, you would hope that, especially with the sales going up like this, they would, you know, start pushing for it again and start actually trying to do more with this device, because behind the scenes we've heard many reports, as the article even mentioned, that they have already been starting to back away from the device, which is kind of what we started to hear back in the day with the Vita, where they started to back away, and before too long, it was just the third parties and the indies still sticking around. But obviously, there is a lot of potential here with VR because, you know, like with the PS Vita, I mean, obviously there was a lot of potential there. Look at what the third parties and the indies were able to do. But with VR, it's to a point of where this is such a fresh technology in the grand scheme of things to where we don't even know what the limits or the experiences to be had really could be, or like what the limits really are for these type of things. And with a company, a first-party company like Sony behind it, especially with, you know, with the PlayStation branding backing it, if anybody could really innovate and push these experiences to their absolute limit with, you know, higher budgets, higher fidelity, and just, you know, getting crazy with it and just really taking the time to experiment and develop something amazing, it would be Sony. So again, with this recent surge in sales, I am hoping that Sony will see, okay, people are actually interested in this thing, and then just, you know, go back to actually working on this thing again, because it's clearly taken a step back from it. But that remains to be seen. Regardless, I'm glad that the PSVR 2 is finally doing well, and it seems like they've been doing some things to try and push the VR 2 a bit more lately, like adding PSVR 2 games to the PlayStation Plus premium subscription, you know, dropping those games in every single month along with the other classics and such. So we'll see how Sony handles this, but again, thankfully the sales are finally picking up for this thing, thanks to the sale that is taking place where the device is literally $200 off. Also, considering the fact that it just recently became available to be used with PCs, I'm sure that is also helping with this surge and spike in sales, because realistically, the PSVR 2 is a pretty cheap entryway, especially on PC, into the VR scene compared to a lot of other headsets that you would be buying. You'd be spending a lot more on a lot of other things, especially like even something like a Quest would be more expensive at this point than the PSVR 2 currently on this very steep sale. Next up, SAG-AFTRA has gone on strike over AI. This coming from IGN, quote, SAG-AFTRA is officially on strike. The story is video game voice actors who say gaming companies are refusing to meet their demands on artificial intelligence. Video game actors' strike has been brewing for some time now, with negotiations over a new contract beginning in October 2022, and SAG-AFTRA members approving a video game strike authorization last September with 98.32% approval. SAG-AFTRA was trying to put pressure on companies to work with the guild on three major issues: pay increases, mandatory breaks, and set medics for on-camera performances, and AI protections. Since that time, they've made strides on basically every single issue on the table except that last one, AI. SAG-AFTRA has been banging this drum ever since, from leafletting outside the Game Awards to striking a deal with AI studio Replica AI to ensure protections for voice actors who did want to opt into using AI in their work, though not all members were thrilled about this agreement. In that time, some game studios have signed interim agreements with SAG-AFTRA that include the AI protections the guild is asking for, but the collective representatives coming to the bargaining table have yet to reach a deal with the union. Which is why, after a month of negotiations, SAG-AFTRA is calling a strike beginning at 12:01 a.m. on July 26, 2024. In a call with the media earlier today, SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee members explained that one of the biggest issues remaining involves the definition of who a quote-unquote performer is. Video game companies say negotiating chair Sarah El-Maleh are trying to exclude some members from AI protections and are refusing to spell out other protections in clear and enforceable language. The employer's AI provisions leave the folks who put their bodies on the line the most vulnerable to abuse, said negotiating committee member Andy Norris. They say they get to choose, seemingly arbitrarily, who is a performer and who is just data. Our union represents all performers, and we refuse to allow our employees to disrespect a portion of our members who have poured their lives and talents into making great performances by saying we don't count. After that, they do go on to mention that this will impact a ton of video games that are currently in development, so be prepared to hear about a ton of video game delays or internal delays as a result of this strike. Some of the studios with strikes happening against them include Activision, Blindlight LLC, Disney Character Voices, EA, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac, Llama Productions, Take-Two, VoiceWorks Productions, and WB Games. But they also mentioned that these are only some of the larger publishers that are affected by the strike, and there are many other studios that weren't even listed here that are affected by the strikes as well. So again, I would expect a lot of delays to be coming in the close to distant future, like within the next year or two. We'll probably start to see the repercussions of this. Any game slotted to release within the next few months, though, those will definitely come out as planned. But yeah, this is once again another strike happening within the industry, which just goes to show there is a lot of problems behind the scenes when it comes to just how employees at some of these gaming companies are treated, whether it comes to their rights or just the treatment in the facilities in general. And you know, seeing these strikes is a good thing because it does kind of provide hope for some of the people that are looking to get into the industry, to where, you know, I'm sure there's many folks that are kind of unsure at this time just because of how much we've been hearing about controversies behind the scenes, whether that comes to certain allegations about the way people have been treated, whether it comes down to, you know, certain things tied to like diversity, sexuality, racism, assault, this, that, or the other. You know, we've heard a lot of crazy stories, especially from some of the bigger publishers like Ubisoft and Activision and such. But then we also have these other things, like all these layoffs that have been happening within the last couple of years. I mean, we have a story coming up later in the show that talks about a very huge company owned by a first-party console publisher company that had to lay off hundreds of employees just this past week, and we've been hearing about thousands that have happened throughout the year so far. So it's a very unsure time, but again, when these strikes do happen, it does kind of, I'm sure it at least provides a sense of hope to those that are either going into the industry or have been considering it, just knowing that, hey, there is people still fighting for our rights as human beings in the industry. So all I can hope is that this results in SAG-AFTRA getting what they're looking for, right? Because AI is obviously a rather new-ish technology. AI itself has been around for a while, but I would say that the rate at which it's been evolving in the last couple of years it's a relatively new concept as to just how advanced some of these things are and how uncanny it is at this point, just how good AI is getting at what it tries to do. So yeah, we definitely need to have some more regulations in place when it comes to not only AI and what it's allowed to do when it comes to, I guess, like maybe pretending to be people or filling in for people, but I also think that we just need more regulations in general when it comes down to like, hey, you know, gaming companies should have to be forced legally to tell people when AI has been used in their games, whether it be for small things like coding or bigger things like, you know, providing animations and voiceovers and such like that. So, but, you know, conversation for a whole other day. Regardless, I'll keep you guys updated on this story as it goes, and we'll see what happens as a result of this strike. But yeah, here we are. It's strike time once again in the gaming industry. I'm not trying to make a joke here, but seriously, we've had a lot of these strikes in recent times, and this is yet another one, but it's all for a good cause. All of them are. And finally, Bungie has laid off 220 employees. This coming from Bungie.net, quote, "The new path for Bungie. This morning, I'm sharing with all of you some of the most difficult changes we've ever had to make as a studio. Due to rising costs of development and industry shifts as well as enduring economic conditions, it has become clear that we need to make substantial changes to our cost structure and focus development efforts entirely entirely on Destiny and Marathon. That means beginning today, 220 of our roles will be eliminated, representing roughly 17% of our studio's workforce. These actions will affect every level of the company, including most of our executive and senior leader roles. Then they go on to talk about how disappointed they are that they have to come to this solution for their ever-decreasing profit margins, but, then we scroll down a little bit more to where they say, we are committing to 2 other major changes today that we believe will support our focus, leverage Sony's strengths, and create new opportunities for Bungie talent. First, we are deepening our integration with Sony Interactive Entertainment, working to integrate 155 of our roles, roughly 12%, into SIE over the next few quarters. SIE has worked tirelessly with us to identify roles for as many of our people as possible, enabling us together to save a great deal of talent that would have otherwise been affected by the reduction in force. Second, we are working with PlayStation Studios leadership to spin out one of our incubation projects, an action game set in a brand new science fantasy universe, to form a new studio within PlayStation Studios to continue its promising development. After that, they go on to talk about how they got to this point, which essentially just boils down to them being overly ambitious with their projects and having multiple projects in development at once, which is obviously very harsh on your costs and profit margins and such. But then we go down to the bottom where they say Bungie will continue to make great games. We still have over 850 team members building Destiny and Marathon, and we will continue to build amazing experiences that exceed our players' expectations. There will be a time to talk about our goals and projects, but today is not that day. Today our focus is on supporting our people. End quotes. So once again, just another story of mass layoffs happening in the video game industry. There has been tens of thousands of them this year alone, not to mention previous years as well. So all we can do is, just kind of pray for those that have been affected by these layoffs and seriously hope that better is on its way for this industry, because I mean, at this point, I don't even know what else to say, right? Like, there's been so many layoffs happening, and every time I say the same thing, like, I send my prayers out to those that have been affected by the layoffs. I hope they can find more sustainable work soon, this, that, and the other, but at this point, it's like, what is it going to take? When is the breaking point? Like, there's been so many layoffs happening. Like, it's getting to a point where, like, studios are getting shut down left and right. So many people are losing their jobs. Like, or it's unsustainable. You would think as these major AAA, studios, that they would have more of this stuff figured out when it comes to, like, costs and such like that. Like, imagine if you heard this in the news about, like, Subway or McDonald's or something like that. Like, every week, it's like, oh, McDonald's just let go of, like, 5,000 employees. It's like, come on, dude. I feel like in the gaming industry, more than any other industry, the money-hungry, both, like, it comes down to, like, the money-hungry CEOs at the top, right? Like, that's part of what starts it, but it's also the fact that gaming is now so reliant on investors and shareholders to where, like, that's where a lot of the funding comes from for just a lot of these companies in general. So they need to appease and please their shareholders and investors, which means any loss is looked at as a complete net negative and will lose the interest of many investors and shareholders in general. And they are always just looking for the biggest percentiles when it comes to profit margins and such, to the extent, or I guess I would say to the detriment of the little guy, which in this case would be, one of the 220 employees that was just let go today. So again, I send my prayers out to all of those that have been affected by the layoffs, and I truly do hope for nothing but the best for you guys. But man, I mean, in general, I just hope for better for our industry, because at this point, I mean, we were already past the point of, like, because I would say that there's an acceptable margin for layoffs, right? Like, that happens at every single company. It happens from time to time, but when it comes to the industry as a whole at this point, clearly something isn't right here, and again, it just boggles my mind that any of this is even happening in an industry as big as the gaming industry, where you would think with how big the industry is that more of these companies would have this stuff figured out ahead of time when it comes to logistics and how many people they can really afford to hire, how many projects they should have going, the cost of these things, and just, have better, like, producers in place where they're there to, kind of keep a leash on everything, just kind of keep the scopes of everything in check. But I mean, I don't know, at this point it just seems like one of those things where every gaming company at this point is just trying to expand and expand and expand to a point where it's no longer sustainable, and then again, the little guy faces the consequences. So this is just where we're at. As the story evolves, obviously I'll keep you guys in the loop, and all we can do is hope for the best for those that have been affected by these layoffs, and just hope that better is on its way for our industry. But anyway, that is all the stories that I got for you guys this week, so now I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on everything that we talked about? I must admit, I was starting to get a little scatterbrained and mushy-brained towards the end there. I've been recording for quite a while now. This was definitely probably the longest episode of WGC yet. I know I covered probably the most stories that I ever have in one episode, and It was a long one, but we had a lot to get through. You know, a lot of big stuff has happened in the last week. So, anyways, just whatever your thoughts on anything that we talked about, I would love to hear from you guys. But anyway, this is Weekly GCap. New episodes go live every single Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to catch them as soon as they go live, well then, I know to be here. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.